Hey everybody, in today's lesson we're going to use an art product a different way, and that's going to be gesso. I'm going to be using gesso as a substitute for white paint. Sounds pretty basic, right? What you don't know is that if you do run out of titanium white, you can use gesso. And I learned that tip from Jerry Yarnell watching his TV show many years ago, and yeah, it works. So in this particular lesson I'm also going to use gesso as a collage medium. So let's go down to the table, see what I've got here. So the paints I'm going to be using, the Gesso Art Americana premium line. It's their new tube acrylics: phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, Hansa yellow light, burnt sienna, and white gesso. You don't have to have both blues. I want my sky to be a bit warmer and my water to be a bit cooler, so that's why I've got these two paints out here. And I'm actually using my DIY Stay Wet palette, which I'll link in the description below. I'm working on a 2x2 canvas, just to show you the size difference. 2x2 is tiny. I've got some seashells here. That's going to be the collage, the actual embellishment. Just a couple of round brushes, no big deal. So I want to work the sky up to here. We'll say the water, that'll be the sky, that'll be the water, and this is going to be sand, and I want the sand to come in a bit of an angle, and I'm going to put the seashell right there. If you're not sure about where to put the water, where to the sky, think of rule of thirds. So never really put anything smack dab in the middle unless you're intentionally doing it that way. Our brain likes to look at perfection and symmetry and all that stuff, so try to work in thirds. So rule of thirds, up and down and sideways. I'm going to cover the entire canvas. And you can use whatever you want for this. What you can do too, I'm going to talk because this is tedious. If you've got watercolor paper or large acrylic paper and paint, do a big thing on that. You can cut that down into 2x2s, and then you can use that, and the sort of background's already created, and you can create your art on that. So that's just a way to randomly create a small little piece of art. So while that's wet, I'm going to take a little bit of ultramarine blue and just start up here. I'm going to take a little bit more white and just X strokes are like this. I'm doing them wide, but because it's only a 2x2, well, it's tiny. And I'm going to work the sides here. And if the gesso dries, that's fine because it just helps fill in the pores. And I like these little pieces. I'd say you can hang them on the wall, but they're so tiny that you may just want to glue them onto something, or a mosaic collage. That would be really cool. I'm going to bring that down a little bit below the third line, the 1/3 marker. Dirty brush, go into some phthalo blue. I'm going to get a bit more white. And a little bit of Hansa yellow light. Now with this I'm going to, so I'm just doing the same things. I'm going like this. And when I pick up some more paint, I'll go into a different color, more water. The premium paints, they're thick, but it's the gesso that's making it really thick. Here we go. And we're going to be doing the water with 2 layers. Want a dark pocket in there. Make a bit more light. And you can paint the water wet on wet or wet on dry, doesn't matter. The sides you can touch up at the end. Okay, that was my stomach growling. Oh my God. You guys don't need to hear that. Bit more white. Come in here. And don't try to get it perfect on the first layer of color. Don't try to do that, because you're just going to frustrate yourself. And then I'm going to take some gesso with a bit of burnt sienna. And I'm just going to paint that there. keeping it rough. If you don't have burnt sienna, you can use burnt umber, or you can make it with primary colors. I actually have a course on how to do that just by making up basically my limited palette using only primary colors. So now that it's dried, I can see some little white flecks in there, but that's okay because this is where we can come in now and do some detail. And I actually should have gotten myself a protein bar because I can still hear my stomach. Oh my God. So I'm just using a smaller brush and putting the sky in there. Acrylics dry darker as well, so keep that in mind if you're, if you're not sure about changing the color. My sky was just a little bit dark, and I do want a good horizon line here. Ideally, if you can paint it with, perfectly straight with a ruler, that's fine. Yeah, I did with this almost like the sky blends into the water, but I did want my water to be a little more on the cool side. So let's start off with a much lighter blue, almost where it's invisible. Then you can go into some darker colors. Don't forget, this is super tiny. If you were to take something really big, then you would see all the details of the waves, but then if you were to shrink that down, not so much. I'm going to take a little bit of that white. So now we have little bits of water. I want to lighten up that sky even more, especially at the horizon line. When you think about it, if you stand outside and you look up at the sky and then take your eyes and then kind of go down, the sky is quite dark up here, then it kind of gets lighter and grayer as you go down. It's because of, the distance of the horizon line that you're looking at. That's why, atmospheric perspective. So we're just putting that in there. Whoops, wrong blue. Now it looks like we have some clouds in there. I like that. I like that. This is super tiny. This is the first time I painted a little landscape on something this small for this type of tutorial. And this is just to get you out of your comfort zone. And we'll go back into the blue and we'll just pop in. So this paint really needs to be watered down a bit, which you could think of it as a good sign, because you can always make paint thinner, but you can't really make it thicker, because the mediums that you add will change the color. And tiny little waves. There we go. We'll do the thing of burnt sienna again. Now the burnt sienna, I'm going to throw in a little bit of, not that much, silly girl. This is where you could use, let's say, a transparent red iron oxide or something like that, but don't need to use extra paint. Darken this area here because the seashell is browny. So this will be some shadow. I'm going to take a little bit of yellow, a little bit of white, a little bit of burnt sienna. There we go. That's better. So before we start gluing stuff in, I'm going to just do a little bit of touch up where I see little pieces of the canvas showing. And take the smaller brush. This is just little tweaks that you can do if you want. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to take the gesso. Where's just the water on the edge? This is really thick. Lightening it up here. So where the water's coming down. And you really can do this any way you want. It's really the outside edge that needs to be bright, and everything else just fades in. And it's just leading into that seashell. Yeah, so the gesso is super thick for this. And then if I add, that's actually not bad. If I add too much water, then it gets thin. It's just manipulating it. Doesn't help that I'm working super tiny, right? And it's more just like a straight on piece. And while that's drying, then we just have to pick some shells. I kind of like this little red one, but it'll get lost. This is the fun part about it, is that you get to experiment to see what you like. I kind of like that. That's what I'm going for. And this is just my way of doing it. I would love to see how you end up creating your own take on this. And if you don't have seashells, use buttons. Use little pebbles from outside. And I'm going to use a palette knife. So I'm going to take the gesso with burnt sienna and leave it mottled. More burnt sienna. You have to make sure you have enough in there. This is tiny. There. Go. And by just tinting the gesso a little bit, it looks a little bit more natural. And rough. That's why I was not worried about what I was putting on underneath, because this is what matters. All this rough texture in here. There we go. Now you can also paint the seashell. That I've never tried before. So if we paint the seashell, if we use the gesso, put a little bit of a highlight. I gotta be careful, it's not dry yet. Just put a little bit of highlight right there. So I'm gonna let this dry for 24 hours. I'm going to assume it's going to be fine, but if it doesn't stick, that doesn't mean the experiment failed. That just means I have to find a different way of doing it. So there we go. Oh, you know what's missing? Oh God, you know what? I should quit while I'm ahead. So that's it. We're finished. So I'm going to assume it's going to be fine. If it's not fine, then I'll do another take and we'll see what happens. But I know it's going to be fine. But we'll see what it looks like in 24 hours, and then kind of see if the shells move and stuff like that. All right. So I'll see you tomorrow. So it's been a few days, and when I finished the little project here, I had gone around to turn off the camera, turn off the microphone, turn off the overhead lights. I had tripped on a cable, down goes the mic, down goes the camera, down goes the lights. After having a hissy fit, for a little bit. Joe and I, we swapped the studio to a smaller room. Yeah, a smaller room. Because I'm thinking, you know what? All of you out there, you guys are probably working from a kitchen table, or you may have a small bedroom or a small den, or even working in a small corner in a basement. If you have something bigger, that's great. So this is a personal experiment for me, really downsizing, and I still have a little bit of stuff to clean up. Then I'm going to do a video of what the studio looks like now. Anyways, enough chit chat. Down to the table. It's quite lovely. Nothing's moving. Really pretty. All the sides are done. Little birdies are done. So again, so that's my hand. It's tiny. So that was a bit of a challenge working that small. What I'd like to challenge you to do, and I can already hear some of you going, I don't have the time. I don't know how to do this. I'm not good enough. Pshaw. What I want you to do is get some paper. Get an 8x10 sheet of paper, even 11x14. And just paint it with the sea color. Just paint it like that. Just slap some paint. Blues and whites, just slap some paint. Then take that and then cut it up into small little 2x2 pieces. You have these little cards. And then you can paint the sand on it, little birds and sand. And if you have seashells or whatever, just glue it on. It's like a little card. Because if you take watercolor paper or something like that, it'll be pretty thick. And if you don't have actual seashells, that's fine. Just paint the little sea. You'll have a whole bunch of them. And then what to do is just send them. It's a cost of a postage stamp. Send a few to family. Send a few to friends, because it'll be a surprise. Don't tell them what you're doing. Just say, I was just thinking about you. So that's going to be my challenge to you. All right? I'm feeling pretty generous. So instead of leaving this as found art on the mountain brow, I'm going to send this to one of you guys. All right? So you guys will have a chance to win this. So all you have to do, first of all, like the video. Well, if you're going to comment and you want to win the prize, you must like the video. So like the video. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And then comment below, what's the smallest painting, the smallest piece of art you've ever created? Is it an inchy, which is 1 inch? Is it a twinchy, which is a 2 inch? Have you even smaller? A friend of mine in the private Facebook group, she did something, I think it was like the size of a cameo. It was tiny. I went, oh my God, it was a woman's face. Beautiful. So comment below what the smallest piece is that you've ever worked on. And then I'm going to hold the draw a week from today. I will contact you via messaging on the YouTube channel, and we'll go from there. Usually I would tell you to go to my blog, but I haven't written the blog post for this yet. So I'm going to contact you directly through YouTube. So that's it. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment if you want to enter the contest to win this little doodad. And until I see you next time, hopefully without tripping on wires, stay inspired.